I want to back up for a moment. But I'm going to, probably don't need to, but I'm going to anyways. I think I totally reversed these on Monday, thinking about it. I haven't looked at the lecture, but something's telling me I had it completely back. The personal pronouns, the second form of address, you, your, that kind of thing. And I'm going to go back to where we see Orlando and Oliver talking, and then we'll look at this as it goes throughout the play. So you've got the two different forms. This is historically the older form, okay, the TH forms. But even those, they're not originally native to English. They come from the Vikings, okay? Conjunction, conflating with some stuff that happens as a result of French in the Middle English period. So the Y forms, you, ye, your. Again, second person singular. When these are used, they can indicate any of these, and they can indicate kind of varieties, so to speak. So politeness and formality. Like what is socially acceptable, so to speak, okay? They're used by a person of inferior something to address a person of superior something. That something can be age, so a younger person talking to an older person. It can be status, a low-born or lower social status individual speaking to a higher social status individual. Morality, speaking to somebody with a higher sense of morality, so to speak, okay? And among the upper class, among equals. That is, you won't see, generally speaking, like Puck and Bottom and Quince and Starveling, etc., using this form, the Y form, among each other. It's not acceptable socially for them to do that, all right? The TH forms, thou, thee, thine, come from or are used for an older individual speaking to a younger individual. So often in the plays, a father or mother to a son or daughter, okay? To address an inferior, again, inferior by age, someone younger, or social status, okay? A duke, a king, etc., to a son or a daughter, or someone lower than them socially. We're going to see Adam gets the TH form used towards him at times. Among those who are intimately familiar, okay, that can mean family members, brothers, brother and sister, son to parent. So even though that's older to younger, if it's a tight-knit kind of family, if they're close, you'll see them use that TH form, okay? And among lovers. Lovers will use that TH form to each other, okay? All right, let me, so back for just a moment. On 299, this is Act 1, Scene 1, as you like it. When we see Oliver and Orlando start their discussion, Orlando says, line 36, shall I keep your hogs and eat husks with them? Well, he's younger than his brother, and they are upper class among equals. That is, they are of the same upper class. They're both sons of Roland de Bois, or Roland de Bois, however you want to pronounce it. But he's probably also indicating these. Why? Because his brother is essentially a step higher. So there's that sense of formality. It's also indicating distance, as I said. So they go back and forth, and Orlando, his next speech, beginning on line 42, just uses the Y forms all throughout. And then we hear him say to his brother, "Come, come, elder brother," line 51, "you are too young in this." And he seizes Oliver by the throat. A fight, so to speak, ensues. Oliver, "Wilt thou lay hands on me, villain?" Why does he switch from the why to this? Is it because they're intimately familiar? These brothers love each other? No. It's what? He's addressing an inferior. He's talking down to his brother, but it's also older to younger. Okay? This can also be TH forms. I thought I'd written it down. No, I didn't write it down there either. Can be used by someone who thinks he or she is morally superior. That is, might be the same status or class, might be, both upper crust, etc. But if I think you're lower than I am morally, I'm going to throw a thou or thee at you to kind of put you in your place. All right? So just kind of keep track of those. There's going to be a scene in Hamlet where I'll talk about it. When Hamlet's talking to his mother, he's trying to show her the mirror of her soul and how blackened and spotted it is from her sins. And when he does that, he starts throwing the these at her, if I remember correctly, to indicate his moral superiority. She responds in kind. Pardon? To thine own self be true. Yeah. Okay. So, picking up, next page, very end of the act, of the scene, we saw Charles come in and talk with Oliver about his wrestling matches tomorrow. And he tells Oliver, "Your brother wants to wrestle me. I'll kill him if I do." Kind of like, I can't help. I have to win, And I have to win by killing. And Oliver thanks him, notice, "for thy love to me which thou shalt." He uses all TH forms in there. Why? Superior to inferior. And he essentially says, don't worry about my brother. You do what you got to do. He leaves, Charles, and Oliver says, "Now will I stir this gamester." So he's got a soliloquy. He's telling us his thoughts. "I hope I shall see an end of him, for my soul, yet I know not why, hates nothing more than he." The gamester is referring to whom? Orlando. So what is he just, I hate nothing more than him. And he doesn't know why. Yet he's gentle. That is, what does he mean by yet? Nevertheless, even though I hate him so much, still, he's gentle. Gentle doesn't mean he's nice and tender. He likes kittens and puppies and things like that. What's it mean? He's well born. He's well bred. He is of a same social status as I am. Upper, nobility, upper class. Never schooled and yet learned. He hasn't been, how does he know so much? And the learned doesn't only mean book knowledge. Okay? It's like he's wise for his age. Full of noble device, of all sorts enchantingly beloved, of all sorts, the full spectrum of society. People at the very top and people down at the bottom. They all speak kindly, they all speak approvingly of Orlando. And indeed, so much in the heart of the world, and especially of my own people. Who does he mean by that? The people in his household. That is, his servants. Oliver's servants. Because they're not Orlando's. They're Oliver's. Of my own people who best know him, that I am altogether misprized. What does it mean to be misprized? I am not thought highly enough of. They look at Orlando, they look at me, they prefer him. They think more highly of him than they do of me. What's he really betraying to us? He's jealous of his brother. Why? What would a shrink or counselor or psychologist say is Oliver's problem possibly here? He has an inferiority complex. He thinks his brother is better than he is. But he doesn't want to think that because he thinks he's, the best thing there is.
Is it that he thinks his brother's better than him, or he's upset that everyone else thinks it's
Well, he's upset that everybody else is, but if he didn't have an inferiority complex, it wouldn't bother him. That's the point. But it shall not be so long. This won't last. This wrestler shall clear all. Nothing remains but I kindle the boy thither, which now I'll go about. So now he says, I'm going to encourage Orlando to go challenge Charles tomorrow. Sounds like we have the beginnings of what kind of play? Comedy? Tragedy. Again, what is the part of society that we see this I knew that was going to happen as soon as I closed that door. What is the part of society that we're going to see rupture? The family. What is the basic building block of every community, every society, every social group? It's the family, the nuclear family. And here it's starting to tear. I mean, we saw it earlier, but now he says essentially he's going to do what to his brother? He's going to have him killed. Okay? Which takes us back where? Metaphorically. Brother, Cain and Abel. So Rosaline comes in now, and Celia. We know from the dramatis personae, Rosaline is the daughter of the banished Duke Senior. Celia is the daughter of the current usurping Duke Frederick. Okay? I pray thee, Rosaline, sweet my cause, be merry. Why does she call her thee? Look at the intimately familiar. Not lovers, they are close friends. They're cousins. Literally, they're cousins, right? They get along great. She says, how can I be merry? How can I have mistress? How can I have mirth? Unless you could teach me to forget a banished father, you must not learn me how to remember my extraordinary pleasure. You must not learn me how? What does she mean? What word would we use rather than learn? This is, Appalachian English almost. So-and-so learned me something. Okay? Teach. It's telling you that Appalachian, that Southernism of being learned something, where we would say being taught, that's because Appalachian English historically is closer to Shakespeare's English than what King Charles speaks today. Why? Because when did those people come over? Early 17th century is when it began. Okay? Anyways, so Celia says, herein I see thou lovest me not with the full weight that I love thee. Long phrase to mean what? You don't love me as much as I love you. If my uncle, thy banished father, had banished your uncle, my father, so thou hadst been still with me, I could have taught my love to take thy father for mine. What is she telling Rosaline to do? Treat my father as if he were your father. Well, that's a hell of a lot easier to do when you're not in that situation, or at least to say that. Okay? So Rosaline says, okay, in other words, all right, you learned me. I will forget the condition of my estate to rejoice in yours. No, I'll forget about me. I'll celebrate your, happiness and such. So they keep talking, and Rosaline says, okay, so what shall be our sport? That is, how are we going to kill time? Let us sit line 30. Celia says, let us sit and mock the good housewife Fortune from her wheel. Fortune's wheel we've talked about. That her gifts may henceforth be bestowed equally. Let's get her to put the wheel away, because the wheel of fortune works how? It's always spinning. Get on the TENU website. You get on it the first time, and what happens? A wheel comes up, and you spin the wheel to see how much fortune you get. And there are a lot of other websites that do this. It's a tacky gimmick. What's she saying? Put the wheel away so that in order for someone to win, to be rising on the wheel, somebody else doesn't what? Have to fall. Let's say instead, you get an equal slice of the pie, you get an equal slice of the pie, and everybody all gets equal slices of the pie. Cool. Rosaline, wish we could. Wouldn't that be nice? What does she mean? It's not how the world works, sister. For her benefits are mightily misplaced, and the bountiful blind woman doth most mistake in her gifts to women. Fortune is what? How's she portrayed? I just gave it away. She's a woman. And what does Rosaline say? She doesn't treat us women fairly. Why? She gave a clue. She's blind. She doesn't look out and see woman, 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 woman. I don't think there are any others. But woman. She's blind. She just goes, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Oops, more men. Celia, 'tis true. For those that she makes fair, that is beautiful, she scarce makes honest. And those that she makes honest, she makes very ill-favoredly. Now look at your gloss, if you've got one with a gloss, because it's important. So, honest, chaste. For those that she makes fair, she scarce makes honest. What is she saying? Celia. Beautiful women tend to be what?
Just liars. Dishonest.
Louder?
Dishonest. Or liars.
Well, not according to if you go by, at least in this edition, in Bevington's gloss, meaning chaste.
My modern translation says, it's true, the women she makes beautiful, she also makes slutty, and the women she makes pure and virginal, she also makes ugly.
So, if you're beautiful, you're going to sleep around. Why? Because men are going to desire you. Pure and simple. If you're ugly, you're going to be a virgin the rest of your life. Why? Because you're going to run away with crosses, go away. This is a commonplace idea in literature of the time. In literature of the time. I don't subscribe to the notion, there are a lot of English literary scholars who do, that it is a commonplace notion in the period generally, that is, in the real world, that men and women looked at women who are beautiful and immediately thought a four-letter word, slut. And they looked at women that were ugly and thought a six-letter word, virgin. Okay? But it shows up in the literature, and it's not just this period. It shows up in Roman literature. I don't think it shows up in Greek literature, but it does show up in some Roman literature. Okay? So, Rosaline responds, nay, now thou goest from fortune's office to nature's. Fortune's office. Fortune's responsibilities. Okay? She said, no. You're wrong, Celia. You're confusing Fortune, and let's call her by her real name, Fortuna, the goddess, with nature, another goddess. We would probably today not use this. What is the earth and everything in it all kind of generally called, this idea of this living, breathing earth force? Gaia. We call it, I call it, if anything, Mother Earth. Okay? She says, you're confusing these. Fortune gives us what? Essentially, opportunities and obstacles. Notice opportunities, that's kind of the rising side. Obstacles, that's the downward side. That's one way. Good luck, bad luck. Nature gives us what? This. In this, in this. Nature gives us our physical abilities, our mental abilities, in one sense, our moral abilities. It's up to us what we do with them. Two totally distinct powers, Celia is saying. And again, and that's an idea in the Renaissance. Just because you're fair doesn't necessarily mean you are going to be a slut or whatever. Okay? Touchstone, the clown comes in. Celia, after Touchstone walks in, responds. We're not going to spend much more time on this passage. No, when nature hath made a fair creature, may she not by fortune fall into the fire? Okay, and mine at least has a, does it have a gloss there? 43. Yeah, the woman whom nature has made beautiful may fall into the fire. What's the fall? What's the fire? Temptation, lust. Okay? Though nature hath, I hate King James English. Though nature hath given us wit to flout at fortune, that is, we can berate fortune, we can write poems against fortune, hath not fortune sent in this fool to cut off the argument? Fortune has sent him in. Why? The implication is maybe we're getting too close to the truth. Okay? Think about this, the notion of fortune, and fortune being a being, capital B, having real force, real power, and the ability to choose who gets good and who gets bad fortune. What does it mean then, or what would that suggest about the wisdom of, to use Celia's term, flouting fortune? Fortune's nothing. She has no control over me. I'm my own person. I'm going to do things my way, you know. Well, if she's really a goddess and has those kinds of powers, what is going to happen? Oh, really? Chaucer's tale of Troilus and Cressida. Troilus, Roman, Troilus, make sure I'm getting these right. Troilus, Trojan, Cressida, Greek, is the warrior's warrior. I mean, he's a man's man. He's out there kicking, you know what. And other guys are talking, and they're talking about their lovers and wives, etc. And he's like, not me. I'm a warrior. I'm going to die on the battlefield. I'm not going to have anything to do with women. Meanwhile, up in the clouds, Fortune is smiling down and goes, really? And she taps Cupid, and Cupid comes over with this arrow and is like, bullseye. So that he gets struck with Cupid's arrow, and then he sees and falls madly in love with a woman on the opposing side, Cressida. Okay? I won't get into more of that. It's deadly, in other words. If you believe in the God of love, to swear off love entirely. Okay? So, they keep talking back and forth, and they start to talk with Touchstone. He has some funny lines. I'm not going to speak much about them, except just before LeBeau comes in. All right? So they're talking about the old Duke and Duke Frederick. And he mentions, you know, how Duke Frederick has usurped the old Duke's place. Let's see. No, I'm not going to spend time on that because we need to try to get through more. Pick up instead line 175 or so. The Duke has come in, Oliver's come in, Orlando has come in, Charles has come in. They're getting ready for the games, the wrestling. And Orlando starts talking with the ladies. He goes up to Celia and Rosalind. And they chat for a little bit. And Rosalind says, in response to Celia's trying to encourage Orlando not to wrestle Charles, Rosalind says, do, young sir, that is, do refrain, don't wrestle Charles. 172. Your reputation shall not therefore be misprized. We will make it our suit to the Duke that the wrestling might not go forward. Why do she and Rosalind and Celia not want Orlando to wrestle Charles?
He could die.
Keep going. Very possibly die. Can't get my words out. Is Orlando ripped muscularly? Is he like 6'5" and No, he's not. Charles probably is. Charles is a huge guy. Orlando wrestles him, he's going to get killed or severely wounded. So why do they not want him to die? Why else?
They think he's cute.
They think he's cute. And they think, therefore, what a waste. I mean, I literally hear, women say, it's too bad that so-and-so is gay. Why? Because there's not enough non-gay ones like, him, whatever, left. That's kind of what she's getting at. No, don't go die. Orlando, I beseech you, punish me not with, this is line 175. Punish me not with your hard thoughts, wherein I confess me much guilty to deny so fair and excellent ladies anything. I hate to go against your wills, but let your fair eyes and gentle wishes go with me to my trial, wherein if I be foiled, that is, if I be thrown down, defeated, there is but one shamed that was never gracious if killed, but one dead that is willing to be so. I'm willing to die. He's saying, this life doesn't mean much to me. I shall do my friends no wrong, for I have none to lament me. Wow. I have none to lament, to mourn. The world no injury, for in it I have nothing. That is, I can do no injury to the world because I don't have anything in the world. Only in the world I fill up a place which may be better supplied when I have made it empty. And it just hit me. I wonder if J.K. Rowling had that line. She's very well read, okay? If she had that line in mind, when she has Dudley tell Harry in book 7, Harry says about Dudley and the Dursleys that they think I'm a waste of space. Okay? To fill up a place which may be better supplied when I have made it empty. And Dudley replies, I don't think you're a waste of space. And Harry interprets that to mean, I love you. What has he just said? The world will be better off when it can fill in the space I take. Is that the thought of a suicide? It's like the thought of a suicide on steroids. Suicidal people think not that the world will necessarily be better off. They think, I'll be better off. This is saying, you're a cancer on the world. Rosalind, the little strength that I have, I would it were with you. I wish I could give you what strength I have. Celia, mine too. Fare you well. Pray heaven I be deceived in you. That's kind of like Mad Max and what's her name, Wishing and Princess Bride. Have fun storming the castle because you're not going to live. So, Charles, where is this young gallant that is so desirous to lie with his Mother Earth? Yeah, and there's all kinds of Oedipian stuff going on there. Orlando, ready, sir, but his will hath in it a more modest working. That is, I don't want to lie with my mother, because that's disgusting. I want to succeed. Okay? They fight, and Orlando wins. Charles is thrown. Duke Frederick, how dost thou, Charles? He cannot speak, my lord. What is thy name, young man? Why thy? Superior to inferior? Orlando, my liege, the youngest son of Sir Roland de Bois. I would thou hadst been son to some man else. The world esteemed thy father honorable, but I did find him still mine enemy. The world thought he was honorable. So what does that imply? The world. Everyone, but not to me. Generally speaking, if the world thinks one thing and one person thinks something else, generally speaking, who are you going to side with? Most people go, there's a lot of weight of evidence over here on the world side. Thou shouldst have better pleased me with this deed, hadst thou descended from another house. In other words, I would be really happy for you if you weren't his son. But fare thee well. Fare thee well literally means what? Be well on your way. Okay? Fare means go. Thou art a gallant youth. I would thou hadst told me of another father. He hasn't said, get out of my sight. That's not what go thee well means. It just means, I hope you have a good life. See you later. All right? So, the Duke leaves. Orlando stands apart. We see Celia speak with Rosaline. They talk about Orlando. And then she addresses Orlando, line 232. Celia does. Sir, you have well deserved. In other words, bravo, If you do keep your promises in love, but justly as you have exceeded all promise, your mistress shall be happy. Now, your promises in love, that can mean a couple of different things. If your promises as a lover, that is vows, are as strong as your physical strength, your lover will be happy with you. It could also be referring to sex. If you're as good as you say you are, your mistress will be happy. Okay? And then Rosalind comes up and pulls a chain off of her neck and gives it to him. Gentlemen, wear this for me. One out of suits with fortune. Who's the one out of suits with fortune? Is it Rosaline or is it Orlando? Or is it both? Wonderfully ambiguous. That could give more, but that her hand lacks means. That implies the one out of suits with fortune is Rosaline. She's saying, this is all I can give you. I don't have more. If I did, I would. Okay? She tells Celia, shall we go? They leave, start to leave, and Orlando has an aside. Again, in an aside, what is happening? Theatrically. Speaker speaks to the audience, but the other people on stage are not supposed to hear what is said. It's the speaker. It's like a soliloquy, with the only difference being other people are on the stage. It's the person's thoughts kind of telepathically going out. Can I not say thank you? My better parts are all thrown down, and that which here stands up is but a quintain, a mere lifeless block. You got a footnote? That, where'd I go? Which here stands up is but a quintain, a mere lifeless block. And your gloss tells you, a wooden figure used as a target in tilting. What is he talking about? It's been suggested by some. It's a phallic reference. Okay? And when he says, my better parts are thrown down, his ability to speak, his ability to engage with them, but physically, he's standing upright. in more than one sense. And Rosalind said, he calls us back. Now, did Rosalind hear literally what he said? No, she hears his voice. And she thinks, oh, he wants us. Run back. My pride fell with my fortunes. I'll ask him what he would, what he desires. Did you call, sir? You have wrestled well and overthrown more than your enemies. Celia, come on, let's go. Have with you, fare you well. Go away, Siri. Stupid thing. What else has he overthrown? She's what? To use the overthrown metaphor, fallen in love. They leave Orlando. What passion hangs these weights upon my tongue? Remember Theseus? The little speech he gives after the big speech about imagination and such, when he says, we will hear these players, and he says, I have come places where people planning a great welcome have done what? Tongue-tied. Orlando's tongue-tied. I cannot speak to her, yet she urged conference. She wanted to speak. He doesn't speak soon enough, and she leaves. Oh, poor Orlando, thou art overthrown. Ah, now we know. He's fallen in love. So they both fall in love with each other, and yet neither one knows it. Like another one of Shakespeare's comedies, Much Ado About Nothing. A warrior named Benedict, who swears up and down he'll never fall in love, in Bing. And Beatrice, a mouthy, bossy, beautiful young woman who swears if she were to fall in love, she would never fall in love with a jerk like Benedict. And they just go at each other all throughout the play. It's clear to everyone else they love each other. They just aren't aware of it yet. Okay? So, he loves her, she loves him, neither one is aware. So, LeBeau comes in and says, you've deserved high commendation, true applause, love, etc., but such is now the Duke's condition that he misconstrues all that you have done. When it says the Duke is humorous, it doesn't mean the Duke is in a good mood. It means the exact opposite. The humors have risen in him. Everything you've done should be rewarded. But the Duke's in a foul mood. You're going to get the opposite of reward. Orlando, I thank you, sir. Pray you tell me this. Which of the two that just left is the daughter of the Duke? Neither his daughter, if we judge by manners. Telling us the Duke is not virtuous. Celia is. The taller of the two, that was his daughter. The other is daughter to the banished Duke. And here detained by her usurping uncle to keep his daughter company. So notice, the Duke has his current position because he usurped it from his brother. But he's also usurping something else from his brother. What? His daughter. Notice, she is forced to stay here for the simple reason to keep Celia happy. So he says, 268. But I can tell you that of late this Duke hath taken displeasure against his gentle niece, grounded upon no other argument but that the people praise her for her virtues and pity her for her good father's sake. Sound like anybody else? Oliver. Oliver hates his brother. Why? He doesn't know, he says. Or he admits he doesn't know. Whether that's true or not, may be unclear, but he says, everybody else loves my brother. It's pretty clear that's the reason why he hates him. So, the people love Rosaline and they feel pity for her because they know she's being forced to stay. And all my life, his malice against the lady will suddenly break forth. So now Duke Frederick is going to take out his anger and malice on Rosaline. What has she done to him? Nothing. Fare you well, hereafter in a better world than this, I shall desire more love and knowledge of you. What does that mean? In a better world than this, I will desire more knowledge and love of you.
He's like basically warning him like you should go because he's not in good mood. And
Okay, possibly.
Like,
I would like to know you more.
in a better world, more people would know you and love you.
Okay, could be. Paul says in one of his Corinthian letters, I can't remember which one. I think it's the second one. He says, here we see now, but through a glass darkly. That is, our glasses here on earth, while we're physically alive, are dirty. We don't see things clearly. He says, but then, that is, in resurrected bodies in heaven, we will see clearly, face to face. We will know as we are known. And what he's suggesting there is not only know Jesus, let's say, but each other. We'll know them perfect. There will be no secrets. Nothing will be hidden. Nathaniel Hawthorne, when I teach Intro to Lit, I always teach the Minister's Black Veil. In the Minister's Black Veil, a preacher shows up to church one Sunday. This is 1760s, so to speak, near Salem, Massachusetts. A preacher shows up to church one Sunday. He's got a black veil on. Nobody knows why. He's freaked out because he doesn't take it off. He goes through the whole service, doesn't take it off. He leaves. He's got a wedding that afternoon. He comes wearing the black veil. Makes him even more freaked out. There's a funeral in there, and they're like, oh, okay, now this fits. This is why he's wearing it. He wears it. His fiancée comes the next morning. Take it off just once. Let me see your... He says, can't. I made a vow. No living person will ever see my face again until the day I die. And she's like, sayonara. You get to the end of the story, and he's lying on his deathbed. He's this old, venerable, wizened preacher. His sermons have such power to them. Everybody comes from far and wide. And he's lying there, surrounded by these preachers, and they're like, now take the veil off from your face that separates you from eternity, meaning die, but also, and let us see your face. One of the speakers says, Venerable Father Hooper. Venerable means worthy of veneration. And he reaches down to pull up the guy's veil and he says, no, never. I look around me and I see a black veil on every face. And what he's saying is, everybody has hated me, has stayed away from me, has not shown love, kindness, compassion, etc. to me because of this veil. And why? Because of the thing that the veil typifies. And what he means by that is, everyone has a veil. What is it? It's the thing they try to hide and keep secret from everybody else. It's like the secret dark sin that they're saying to God, not even you get this. And what he says in one of his sermons, actually what he says there, when what we should be doing is opening ourselves up to each other. Okay? Hereafter, in a better world than this, I shall desire more love and knowledge of you. I think he's talking about when we're both dead. I will seek you out. I will desire you for more love, friendship, and knowledge, better understanding. Okay? So, LeBeau leaves. Orlando gets a little 3-line soliloquy. Thus must I from the smoke into the smother, like fire into the frying pan, or frying pan into the fire, whichever one you want to use, from tyrant duke unto a tyrant brother. like Rosalind gives them almost like a glimmer of hope. Okay? 1-3. Rosalind and Celia come in, and we're going to. The Duke comes in on 304. This is around line 35 and so. What happens between the Duke and Rosalind? He banishes her. Why? What has she done? What reason does he give? Because you're your father's daughter.
She has a traitor's blood.
Okay, so if she is her father's daughter, what does that make her to him? Niece. There should be a bond of love there, but there's not. Okay, so that's it. You're your father's daughter, therefore I'm banishing you. Rosalind, 43. I do beseech your grace, let me the knowledge of my fault bear with me, if with myself I hold intelligence or have acquaintance with mine own desires. That is, if I can look inwardly and figure out what it is, as I do trust I am not, then, dear uncle, never so much as a thought unborn did I offend your highness. I've never even thought ill of you, she says. Thus do all traitors. That is, all traitors do exactly what you just said. Oh, I didn't intend anything. If their purgation did consist in words, they are as innocent as grace itself. Let it suffice thee, I trust thee not. But your distrust doesn't, your mistrust, sorry, not distrust, your mistrust, she says, doesn't make me a traitor. You know, we heard traitor bandied all about the last 15, 20 years in the United States. And almost, I would say, 99.999% of people who do, they don't have a freaking idea what the word literally means. What is she saying? Just because you say I'm a traitor doesn't what? Doesn't mean I'm a traitor. You have to have proof or evidence. She says, tell me what I've done. And that's when we get, thou art the father's daughter, and that's enough. Guilt by association. So was I when your highness took his dukedom. Ouch. There's a slap. So was I when your highness banished him. Ouch. Treason is not inherited, my lord. What has she just done? Did he inherit his treason? Usurping the throne, that's treasonous. If J.D. Vance today said, you know, I no longer like Trump, I'm the president now, what would immediately happen? He'd be arrested. Or if he said, I'm going to overthrow President Trump, I need general soldiers to align with me, Trump would call up the director of the Secret Service, his former personal Secret Service agent, and Pam Bondi, Attorney General, and Vance would be arrested. Why? Because that's treasonous language. She's accused him of treason by saying, what you did to my father. Or if we did derive it from our friends, if treason could kind of rub off on someone, she says, what's that to me? My father was no traitor. Then, good my liege, mistake me not so much to think my poverty is treacherous. Reason I'm poor is you made me this way. And she doesn't mean physical wealth poverty. She means poverty of spirit, poverty of soul. Celia says, Daddy, dear sovereign, let me speak. He says, it's the only reason we're here. It's because of you. So she says, 70. If she be a traitor, so am I. We still, always, continually, constantly is what that adverb means. We still have slept together, rose in an instant, learned, played, eat together. And wherever we went together. If you're going to accuse her of being a traitor, you have to accuse me of being a traitor. No. You don't understand. Duke Frederick says. She is too subtle for thee. What has he just said to his daughter?
You're dumb.
You're dumb. You're too stupid to get this. And her smoothness. What's her smoothness? Compare, and I'm not making a political statement by any means. Compare Bill Clinton as orator, Barack Obama as orator, and George W. Bush as orator, and Donald Trump as orator. Nobody would put Bush and Trump in the same category as Clinton and Obama. Those guys were smooth with words. I mean, it's like they were made to be speakers, not Trump and not Bush. Okay? What's he saying? Her smoothness, her rhetorical skills, her slipperiness, if you want. Her very silence and her patience speak to the people. Her silence speaks to the people. How does silence speak? It's a lack, right? It's an absence. It allows the people to do what? To fill in that absence, that vacuum, if you would. And they pity her. What is totally escaping Duke Frederick? Why do the people pity her? Because they see his treatment of her. They pity her. Thou art a fool. She robs thee of thy name, and thou wilt show more bright and seem more virtuous when she is gone. So if you've got to look better because somebody else is offed, is removed, what does that say about you? You don't shine so brightly. The only way a 15-watt bulb or a 50 or 60-watt bulb looks good is if you take all the 100 and 150-watt bulbs away. A little bit of light is better than no light. A little bit of light is nothing compared to bright daylight. Then open not thy lips. In other words, honey, shut up, or the people are going to see how stupid you are. Firm and irrevocable is my doom, which I have passed upon her. She is banished. She says, then pronounce that upon me. Why? What has she already said? Everywhere she goes, I go with her. Okay? You are a fool. Second time he said that. The Duke leaves. So, what do Rosaline and Celia plot? We're going to run away. We're back to Midsummer Night's Dream. We're going to go off to the forest, away from the Duke's power. Okay? So, interestingly, in that little passage just before Act 2, when they're talking, line 112. So Celia says, I'll put myself in poor and mean attire. That is, I'll look like a bum. And I'll smirch my face and such. And we'll pass along. And we won't attract rogues and vagabonds, highway robbers and such. Rosaline, were it not better, because that I am more than common tall, that I did suit me all points like a man? What does she mean when she says, I am more than common tall?
She's taller than everyone else.
Or at least she's taller than Celia. And yet LeBeau earlier said, Rosaline was the shorter of the two. The daughter of the Duke was the taller one.
No, he said smaller.
No. He said the daughter was the smaller one?
Yeah, I think you did.
Okay, then I reversed that when I talked about it earlier. Good, because I was going to say, here's an example of a problem. Never mind. So, she's going to dress like a man. How is Celia going to dress? Also like a man? No. Like a woman. In whose form is Rosaline going to take? or name, let's say, Ganymede, all right? Why doesn't Celia also take the name of a Roman or of a god? Why does she take Aliena or Aliena?
She said it was like her current circumstances, so she was being alienated.
That's exactly it. She's going to become an alien, kind of in her own land, all right? Her father has made her that, okay? 2-1. So, all of Act 1 is in the court. 2-1, we're now in the Forest of Arden, okay? Similar kinds of things apply as we saw in Midsummer Night's Dream. Couple of differences, well, actually, I think these apply also to the wood, in Midsummer Night's Dream. In Arden, back here, and as you like it, the court represents corruption. How so? At least as the play opens. How is it corrupt?
In A Midsummer's Night Dream or
In As You Like It. In As You Like It. Yeah, this one doesn't apply to, there's nothing corrupt about Theseus.
There's like infighting within a family.
Okay. At its source, you have a brother usurps a brother's place. Okay? That's corrupt. There's a rupture with right there, right? In Arden, it's kind of, not literally, sinless. It's referred to as a golden wood, all right? In both plays, in Midsummer Night's Dream and in this play, the forest kind of represents the heart, emotion, as opposed to, in the court or in the city, the mind, reason, rationality. So, 2-1. Enter Duke Senior, Amiens, and 2 or 3 lords. And they're all dressed like foresters. Or at least the lords are. And Duke Senior speaks. Now, my co-mates and brothers in exile, remember we were told in Act 1 that several lords went with Duke Senior when he was banished. They weren't banished, they chose to go off with him. Hath not old custom made this life more sweet than that of painted pomp? What's old custom? Habitual actions. Experience. There in the wood. He's telling us we've lived here long enough to where we are used to it. Okay? And it has made our life what? More sweet, meaning more full of pleasure and joy, more good than back in the court, where there is painted pomp. Think DC versus Murfreesboro. DC painted pomp. Or if you're a Hunger Games fan, think Capital City versus districts, well, any of them really, but especially 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 even, you know. Are not these woods more free from peril than the envious court? Envious court. What is the court? Is he saying the court is envious of something? Does the court envy them living out there in the woods? Do people in D.C. envy people living in Asheville, North Carolina right now? Hell no. Because Asheville's still a wreck. Okay? So what does he mean? What is the envious court?
Within itself.
Bingo. Those who are in the court, they are full of envy for what you have and what you have and what you have and what you. They envy each other. What's that telling us about the court? Envy is one of those 7 deadly sins. So we're more free from peril than the envious court. Why? Because you don't envy what I have here. Because here in the wood, what do they have? Nothing, really. Here feel we not the penalty of Adam. What's the penalty of Adam? The curse? Death? Does that mean they go off into the wood and they don't die anymore? The season's different, so we don't feel the penalty of Adam. We don't feel the season's difference. You wouldn't want to be living out in the wood in a day like today, or like it was in early January when we got down to, 5. He's saying here, we don't feel that. As the icy fang and churlish chiding of the winter's wind, which when it bites and blows upon my body, even till I shrink with cold, I smile and say, this is no flattery. In other words, he's saying, even when it's biting, wintry cold, it's what? It's real. It's real to the body, it's real to the soul. It's not like some suck-up coming up and saying, oh, you look great today, my Lord, or my grace has such a beautiful voice, or wonderful what? Whatever that kind of flattery is. He says, no. These what? The natural experiences in the wood. These are counselors that feelingly persuade me what I am. What does he mean, what I am? Just a man. Not a king, not a duke. Feelingly persuade me. How? What does he need beyond what he has? Nothing. If we get to King Lear, if I don't have to drop King Lear, there's going to be a scene when Lear has been in the midst of a horrendous storm. And he's yelling at it because he's going crazy. I argue, some critics recently have started arguing this. He's not actually going crazy. He's suffering from Alzheimer's. I am convinced. Both my parents died of Alzheimer's. I'm convinced he had Alzheimer's. Or Shakespeare knew someone who did, maybe one of his parents. He's railing against the weather and such, and then he meets a beggar, someone pretending to be a beggar. And Lear has a moment of clarity. And the moment of clarity is, when I was still king and had all the powers and things that go with that, what did I ever do for him? How did I help the poor? How did I help the naked? How did I help the hungry? And so he says, this is now, or he implies, this is now my penance for not having done what I should have done. That feelingly tell me what I am. Sweet are the uses of adversity. What's meant by uses? So adversity hits you. Reality hits you. Crap happens.
The silver linings.
How do you use that? That's what he means. How do you use adversity? A poet will not this class, my Brit Lit 1 course. A poet preacher that we will read, maybe, if we get to it, John Donne, wrote a series of meditations when he thought he was dying. This was actually 8 years, I think, before he died. But he thought he was on his deathbed, and he writes these poems, prayers, and meditations called Devotions Upon Emergent Occasions. And in number 17, he hears a bell tolling. And he writes the famous phrase that Hemingway steals for the title of a novel. Ask not for whom the bells toll, it tolls for thee. And what he's getting at there is there's a custom in England, we don't have time for this, but there's a custom in England, used to be, it's still done some today, that when someone dies, the local parish church bell is tolled, rung, to announce that person's death. Okay? And two things are done when it's rung. That is, it's rung a number of times, and then it stops, and then it's rung again a bunch of times, and then it stops. The first time that it tolls to indicate whether a man or a woman has died. 8 tolls of the bell indicate a woman has died. 9 tolls of the bell indicate a man has died. Okay? So you hear the bell start and you stop. And you hear 8. You now know a woman in the parish in the small town has died. Most small towns, they would know who's ill. Martha has finally passed. Then there's a pause, and then it's rung again. And it's like once every 30 seconds or once every minute. And it's rung each time for the number of years that person has lived. So if you hear it ring, let's say 9 times, and then there's a poem we're going to read later on, 7 times, that means a male who is 7 years old has died. Ben Jonson writes an epitaph on my first son. Then he writes another epitaph on my first daughter. Both of his firstborn died. His first child and his second child both die in childhood. Okay? Why did I get all to all that? Back to Donne. In that meditation, he talks about the tolling of the bell. It says, I need to apply it to me. Here I am on my deathbed. I hear the tolling bell. Maybe it's tolling my death. But then he says, but maybe it's not for me. Maybe it's for Sharonica in the bed next to me. And the physicians have said, she's about to die. Donne says in the meditation, I should apply the tolling of her bell to me. That is, I should make from this adversity, death, gold, bullion, treasure for my soul. How? By using it to prepare. Hamlet's, I think I mentioned in here the other day, the readiness is all. One must be ready to die every moment of one's life. That's what he's saying. Sweet are the uses of adversity, turning adversity, what we think of as horrible things, to positives. I was going to say go back to The Wanderer, but that's a different class. It's the first line of The Wanderer for those of you who are here for that class. So, sweet are the uses of adversity, which like the toad, ugly and venomous, right? Nobody likes bad things. I was in a horrendous car wreck last June. EMT said, dude, you're lucky to be alive. Still have pain from it. 15-year-old kid driving his parents' brand new Lexus SUV. Mom was in the car. He thought he could make a left-hand turn across my right-of-way and couldn't. Okay? What is he saying? I need to learn to make something positive out of that adversity, out of that pain and suffering. So he goes on. Which, like the toad, ugly and venomous, wears yet a precious jewel in his head. He's talking about this idea that there are these marks on toads that can be beneficial. Okay? Not literally. It's a figment in Renaissance medieval imagination. And this, our life, exempt from public haunt, doesn't mean haunt like, ooh, ghosts, haunt local, regular areas, the place you haunt, that you go to regularly, finds what? Tongues in trees. Tongues do what? They communicate. They speak. Books in the running brooks. Sermons in stones. And good in everything. Now, I don't know if Shakespeare knew this term or not, but it was around when he used it. In general kind of Christian theology, there is general revelation, and there is specific revelation. General revelation is what we get from nature, what the scholastics in the Middle Ages, the Catholic scholastic philosophers, came to refer to, partially at least, as natural law. The stuff that you can know about God from nature. Okay? For example, it exists. It exists because there had to be an exister behind it, something that made it. So he's saying we can learn stuff from trees and such. Think Aesop's fables. Anybody familiar with the fable of the mighty oak and the straw? The straw does what when it gets windy? Or the reed? It blows and it bends. What does a mighty oak do? It dies. What's the point? What is the revelation coming from that? What is the tongue, the book, the sermon from that? When things get really bad, bend with them. Hamlet slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Take them and then get back up and go on. Okay? That's general revelation. Specific, Scripture. That's the Bible. Okay? And Christ, who we know about through the Bible. So, what's he saying? He's learned all of this because of his experience in the wood. Because back here, he's not taught that. What do people say to you when you are the king or the president? Whether state president, governor, country president, university president. I used to have meetings and such, when I was on faculty, senate, steering committee stuff with the president before McPhee, and there were an awful lot of people who would be in those meetings, and they were the proverbial brown nosers. I mean, they were the yes men. Oh, this is a great idea, Mr. Walker, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there going, this is a stupid ass idea. But I was a lowly assistant professor, and too cowardly to speak up. So, Amen. I would not change it. I would not give up this wild existence, living out in the cold and the rain and the snow, for anything else. Happy is your grace, okay? Your grace, specific term, it is a title to indicate an exalted status, here referring to the Duke, that can translate the stubbornness of fortune into so quiet and so sweet a style. You have translated, meaning what? Peter Quint said to Bottom, Bottom, thou art translated. Transformed. But here it can mean translate because he's mentioned sermons, tongues, books. Which if I want to read a sermon, a language, or a book that's from another language, what must I do? I must translate it. So you must translate the lessons of nature into what? Something that can be useful. You must make use of the adversity. Which is why he says, that can translate the stubbornness of fortune into so quiet and so sweet a style. He doesn't mean style like, oh, you're so eloquent. Yes?
What? Sorry. What?
I'm at line about 20 or so, 18 to 20.
Thank you.
So, Duke Sr. says, let's go kill some deer, let's get some venison. The First Lord comes in, and he says, the melancholy Jacques, which however you want to pronounce, I'm going to say Jacques, that's how I was taught, grieves at that. At what? The killing of deer. Why? Drives me, not anymore, I'm becoming inured to it. Used to drive me crazy. I've been here for 32 years now. When Murfreesboro was a whole lot smaller. And you would not see nearly as many dead deer on the side of the road. But the more and more we encroach into their native wild habitats, they get killed. Jacques is upset at what? The melancholy Jaques grieves at that, and in that kind swears, you do more usurp than doth your brother that hath banished you. You have usurped nature, the deer's home, more than your brother hath usurped yours. Because what are they doing to the deer that his dear, pun intended, brother didn't do to him? His brother wasn't a cannibal. Yet you're killing the deer. Notice they haven't gone all vegan, going off into the golden woods, so to speak. Okay? And he says, and we've heard him singing, melancholizing, mourning the loss of the deer and such. Okay? So they talk about what they experienced with Jaques and such. Lines 58 and following, the first Lord says, talking about Jaques' speech, most invectively he pierceth through the body of the country city court, yea, and of this our life. Okay, notice the progression there. The body of the country, that means the area outside civilization. The city, so think of a walled city, and the court. We go from general, everything, to specific. The heart of the city, the court. And swears that we are usurpers, tyrants, and what's worse, to frighten the animals and to kill them up in their assigned and native dwelling place. Why frighten? Does he go up to the deer and go, boo? It's the hunt. Do you think deer like being hunted? And are they hunted just by woodsmen on foot? If you know anything about British culture, and this still goes on, they still have these today, fox hunts, where the upper crust of society get dressed in their great fox hunting clothes, they let out their foxhounds. Usually if they're successful in a fox hunt, how does the fox get killed? It's run to death. It's not shot with an arrow or with a rifle. It's run to it till its heart just gives out. That's fear, okay? I kind of think, maybe it's just me, I like foxes. We have them every now and then in our yard. Shakespeare's saying something here about the natural world, that we should be maybe a little more attentive to it.
Yeah, I kind of read this as like, he's shut up in his castle and he's able to be melancholic about it because he actually doesn't have to.
He who? Jaques? Well, he's not in a castle.
Well, not castle, but.
I mean, he's out here in the woods with them.
Oh, okay.
That's an interesting point. I don't think. Trying to remember if we ever see Jaques eating. If he eats the venison. Because if he does eat the venison, he's the biggest hypocrite of them all. I don't think he does. Okay? So, go on to 2:2. I know we've only got like 7 minutes. Frederick comes in, and we find out the second Lord speaks to him and says, the clown that you like so much, he's left, Touchstone, okay? As well as your daughter and Rosalind, okay? 2:3. So, 2:2 goes back to the court. 2:3, Orlando and Adam come in. They speak and they plan also to leave. Orlando asks Adam, line 12, 13, 14, 15, line 16. What's the matter? O unhappy youth, come not within these doors, says Adam. Within this roof the enemy of all your graces lives, your brother or no brother, yet the son, yet not the son. I will not call him son of him I was about to call his father. Hath heard your praises, and this night he means to burn the lodging where you used to lie, and you within it. So he says, don't come in. This is Orlando's home that he has arrived at, his lodging. Adam has locked himself up in there. Says, don't come in because your brother so hates you, he's going to burn you alive. And if he fails of that, he'll find other means to cut you off. I overheard him and his practices, that is, his plotting. If this doesn't work, I'll try this, and if this is no place, this house is but a butchery. Why, whither, Adam, wouldst thou have me go? No matter, just don't come here, okay? You want me to beg for my food? Or become a thief? No, Adam says. Line 38. I have 500 crowns, the thrifty hire I saved under your father. So I've saved 500 crowns, a crown's like a pound, okay? Which I did store to be my foster nurse, that is, my insurance policy, my retirement. When service should in my old limbs lie lame and unregarded age in corners thrown. Take that, take my 500 crowns, and he that doth the ravens feed, God, yea, providently caters for the sparrow, be comfort to my age. It's like he's saying, I'm nearly dead anyways, and I will trust God to provide for me, which is what Jesus tells his followers to do. Take not care for the morrow, neither for food nor clothing, etc., because of the sparrows and such. He offers them the gold. Let me be your servant. I'll go with you. Though I look old, yet I'm still strong and lusty, for in my youth I never did apply hot and rebellious liquors in my blood. That is, I didn't drink, nor did not with unbashful forehead woo the means of weakness and debility. I didn't sleep around. Therefore my age is as a lusty winter. I never made the connection before. By talking about never drinking and never sleeping around, who might Adam, aka Shakespeare also, be suggesting? Old Testament hero. Who was really strong and yet lost it because of his lust and drink. Samson. Samson was raised a Nazarene, so he never shaved his hair and he never drank liquor. When his hair gets cut by Delilah and he starts partying with her, he loses all of his strength. He loses his strength because of the hair being cut. Echo, I don't think it's, strictly speaking, a biblical allusion. I think it's an echo, okay? So he says, I'll go with you. I might look really old, but I still have some strength. Orlando, top of 307, 56. Oh, good old man, how well in thee appears the constant service of the antique world. The always continual. Back in the good old days, servants, served until they died. Thou art not for the fashion of these times, where none will sweat but for promotion. None will work, he's saying, except for what? Unless they get paid, or unless they get promoted to the next level. And having that, do choke their service up even with the having. That is, they use it all up. So, they go. Adam follows. 2:4. We're now back to Rosaline with Touchstone. Okay. And they go back and forth. There's some jokes and such made. They meet a couple of people. They're out in the wild. They're not yet in the wood in Arden per se. They're on their way. They meet Corin and Silvius. These two are going to come in a little bit later. We're going to leave them alone for right now. Corin, however, at line 71, says, we're going to stop there because it's 11:44. We'll pick up there and just keep plugging on along. I'll probably try to finish this on Monday, so we'll only be one day behind, because I had for the syllabus today, just blank, to be announced. We'll see. There is a quiz that's due tonight, right? I think over Midsummer Night's Dream.